What is up, everybody? Noble Comics here with the next round of the Tournament of Power. Today we have some heavy hitters. It is going to be Whitebeard from One Piece versus Kenpachi from Bleach. First, let's look at the results of the last match. It was Aang versus Naruto, and Naruto is going to win that with the majority of the votes, and he will move on to fight Iron Man in his next fight. But with that out of the way, let's get to today's match. So let's get into this fight. Two extremely powerful anime characters. Again, Whitebeard from One Piece, Kenpachi from Bleach. Looking at each of these characters individually, Whitebeard we talked about before in another video. At the time, he is called the strongest man on Earth. In his youth, of course, he was one of the most powerful people on the planet. And even now, in his older form, he still is extremely powerful. Most everything we see regarding Whitebeard is during the war arc when we're trying to save Ace, obviously. And this is the version of Whitebeard we're going to use, right? We're going to use the version we actually see, not his young version where we don't know quite as much about. But even in his old version, like I said, he's extremely, extremely powerful. As far as his abilities go, he has the ability to essentially like shatter the air, create these massive shock waves. And this can, of course, cause these massive tidal waves. It can shatter the earth. It can kind of like tilt the entire island that they're on, which is extremely impressive. And it can be so powerful that it destroys the entire massive island that they're on, as we see Whitebeard do. So his character is pretty much a super strong and super durable type of guy. He's obviously very big and stoic, and that's kind of how he fights also. His hits are very strong, but they're also kind of slow, like we see against Akainu. He kind of thrives on the ability to be able to take damage. He takes tons of bullets and cannon fire and everything like that, even after he's been punched through the chest, like a hole's been punched through his chest by a man made of pure lava, and he's still fighting. The guy is absolutely insane. And his hit against Akainu here, and again, Akainu is one of the most powerful people in One Piece also, and he essentially one-shots the guy. Whitebeard is like power personified in the One Piece universe. He's like a force of nature, and he's extremely hard to kill. On top of that, he has different Haki abilities, and we know that Whitebeard has all three. So he has observation Haki, means he pretty much has precognition, armorer's Haki, which is like he can harden certain parts of his body or weapons to make them more powerful, and he can touch like intangible people, like someone made of pure lava or pure fire or something like that. And he has conqueror's Haki, which is very similar to what Kenpachi has, where it's like their spiritual pressure. It's similar to that, where like his mere presence can overpower and knock out less powerful people. And having higher Haki is actually like, that's how you get a high power level, regardless of if you have a devil fruit or not. Kenpachi, on the other hand, is a bit of a different animal, though they do share some similarities. And I know we're going to have to put some limitation on Kenpachi here, just because, like most anime characters, especially the ones we have here in the bracket, their top end is like really, really out there as far as power levels. So we're going to scale back a little bit, and we're going to say this is Kenpachi. Post time skip, he can take off his eye patch, but we're not doing where he has like his Zanpakuto, his Bankai, whatever. We're going before that. And just to be completely honest, I don't know a ton about Bleach. I've watched some of it, but definitely not all of it. So I've done a lot of research here. Please let me know if what I'm saying is all accurate. But Kenpachi as a person is an absolute killing machine. The guy loves battle, he loves to fight, and he loves to kill. Earlier on, in like before the time skip in Bleach, he was a lot more willing to give his opponents different handicaps, willing to kind of goof around a little bit. Post time skip, he's just a straight killing machine. He's done with boring long fights. He's just ready to kill people and get it over with. And so how does this guy fight? Well, primarily he has a sword. It's kind of this janky, broken looking sword, but it is extremely strong, especially in his hands. He's able to cleave and cut through extremely powerful beings like different captains and things like that a normal person in this universe would struggle against, but he can easily take them out. His swings and slashes with his sword are powerful enough to cut skyscrapers in half, level city blocks, things like that. The guy is extremely powerful. He's also very fast. At one point, he's talking to Ichigo, and he's like on top of this skyscraper pretty far away. And then, like, in an instant, he's behind Ichigo before he could recognize that he had moved, anything like that. Just instantly gets behind him. Super fast, super strong. Like I said, his swings are very strong. He's also physically very strong, able to throw boulders and things like that are very large. Also able to overpower giants as well, which is something that we've seen Whitebeard do in the One Piece universe too. But Kenpachi is definitely on that level also. And like I mentioned, Kenpachi has a very high spiritual pressure, which is similar to Conqueror's Haki. Whenever he takes off his eye patch, that spiritual pressure gets even higher, to a point where it acts as like a shield for him, to where lesser people can't even touch him. Lesser people might be knocked out by it, right? That's how powerful just the aura of this guy is. And like I said, we've seen him be extremely fast. We've seen him cut through some of the more powerful people in the Bleach universe with ease. We've seen him cut through this giant meteor and blow it up with relative ease, right? And he is extremely durable. He kind of doesn't care much about his body, it seems, in a similar way to Whitebeard, where he's just willing to tank attacks. We've seen Kenpachi be slashed, stabbed, impaled over and over and over again, and it doesn't seem to faze the guy at all. Sometimes he even opens himself up to allow himself to be attacked, so that he can then get them in close for a counterattack. Also, one pretty impressive thing we saw him do is he was trapped inside this person's power, where essentially he could not see and he could not hear. It's pitch black and completely silent. But the other person in there could, obviously they could see and hear, and they were attacking him, and he was still able to win by reacting to their sword like the millisecond before it hits them, after it touches his clothes, but before it stabs him, to be able to react and fight against them. The guy is an absolute fighting beast. He's able to adapt very quickly, like I just kind of laid out. And though he fights kind of recklessly, he also has the skill to back it up. So if we put these two together, stat for stat, who is coming out on top? So I think that if we're looking at pure strength, Whitebeard's probably got the advantage there, just because that's kind of who his character is. He is the strongest character in One Piece, or strongest man alive at the time. And I don't think Kenpachi can directly compete with that. But we look at something like speed, I think Kenpachi definitely has the advantage. Speed is very much a part of his character. Whereas with Whitebeard, he's really not a fast person. He's more just big and strong and imposing, and his haki and everything backs him up to allow him to fight and overpower other people. And that is not to say that, Kenpachi is not strong or Whitebeard is not fast relatively, right? But as far as pure advantage, I think that's how it's laid out. Durability-wise, I think that they are very close. We've seen Kenpachi again be able to take explosions and gunfire and things like that. And we've also seen Whitebeard take explosions and gunfire and being punched to the chest. I think it has to be relatively close between the two. So it kind of comes down to who's going to land more hits. I think the haki and spiritual pressure thing pretty much would cancel out. I don't think that one would necessarily overpower the other with their abilities, but I do think Whitebeard's other haki would come into play. His armament haki would be a great defense against Kenpachi's sword, and also his observation haki would be very useful as far as like precognition to hopefully make up for his lack of speed comparatively. I think the biggest advantage for any character here is the fact that Kenpachi is fighting Whitebeard towards the end of his life and sort of his career as a pirate. Because Whitebeard is old and he's sick, and so he's definitely not at his peak. But Kenpachi's not at his peak either, but relatively I think that Whitebeard is in a less powerful state like throughout his life. And I think that would give the advantage probably to Kenpachi off the bat. I definitely think Whitebeard would land some hits. I don't know how Kenpachi would react, but we know that he is pretty much like a fighting genius. He's able to adapt very quickly. And I don't think that Whitebeard would put him down necessarily in just one or two hits. But the same goes for Kenpachi. I don't think he's putting Whitebeard down quickly either. And Kenpachi, of course, needs to get in close to use his abilities, right, to actually hack and slash the guy, where Whitebeard does have a range advantage. And if Kenpachi does get in close, I feel like destructive power per hit is advantage Whitebeard, though he does still have a speed advantage, so he can probably get in more hits quicker or maybe be able to dodge better. But precognition from Whitebeard's side, right, might level that out a little bit. At the end of the day, I do think that Whitebeard probably has a pure stat advantage versus this version of Kenpachi. I think his precognition comes into play. I think his armament hockey comes into play and helps him out a lot. I think that the fact that he is extremely dangerous up close and from afar comes into play a lot. As far as destructive capability of like output between the two, I think that they're both close. Like I said, we've seen Kenpachi slice skyscrapers in half. We've seen Whitebeard destroy islands. We've seen Kenpachi destroy meteorites. They're not far off, definitely. But with Kenpachi, you can dodge a sword slash, right? But with Whitebeard, it's harder to dodge his devil fruit ability because it's just like the world around you is being shaken and destroyed. I think that this fight is very close. I'm probably giving it to like Whitebeard 6 out of 10. But as always, you all get to vote and see who's going to advance the bracket. So please go to the communities page, cast your vote for who you think would win, Kenpachi or Whitebeard, and I'll see you in the next video.